to strike the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, and I want to thank the chairman and the whole committee for having this conversation and addressing this bill. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of the Butch-Lewis Act. As others have said, I'm proud to be a part of this committee and appreciate the way that we do work together, both within the committee and throughout the year. I think much of what we're talking about is about expectations, and I think it's fair for anyone who has committed a lifetime to work in this country to have the expectation that after working a lifetime, many decades, after playing by the rules, after making the hard choices and decisions to give up a little today for security in the future, that upon their retirement they can confidently rely upon the promises made to them and have the dignity and security that their pension was supposed to provide. The workers in this room and across the country are not at fault. They should not be punished. These workers played by the rules and made the responsible choices to secure their futures. They contributed to their pensions over long work lives. Now, after working hard for literally decades, their security may be taken away from them, and taken away at a time where they don't have a chance to adapt. This is quite simply wrong. I listen to the words that we've talked about in this conversation today. We've talked about generations, and I think about my own career. As a young man beginning to work, retirement was about my grandparents' generation. And then it was about my parents' generation. And now as I'm approaching the age where my colleagues and peers are beginning to discuss retirement, I worry about my children and grandchildren. Every generation deserves the expectation that they can retire with dignity. We've talked about fault. One thing I know for certain is not the fault of the workers that were in this situation. We talk about time. I appreciate that those of us on the lower row here have not had the time to evaluate the situation, but that doesn't change the fact that time is not on our side. We need to act with urgency because every day we don't act costs us more. And we've talked about accountability. We need to take the steps that move us forward so we don't get into this situation again. Circling back to generations, we need to make sure that our children and our grandchildren can rely on promises made to them. This is about promises, this is about expectations, but it's also about our responsibility to our fellow Americans. I am so proud to be a sponsor of this legislation. I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to strengthen it, and I hope we can, at this time, at this moment, take the steps necessary to pass this bill. And with that, I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Let me recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Reed, to strike the last word. Then we will proceed to